Good morning, everyone. We will begin the webinar in just a few moments as we allow attendees to continue to join. Thank you for your patience.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Pat Brady. I'm one of the founders of the Lincoln Forum, and we started the Lincoln Forum about 3 years ago. Decided, it's time for maybe we could have a public policy forum in the city of Chicago where Democrats, Republicans, everybody of all political persuasions could get together and have civil discussions about the issues of the day and the events of the day. And we'd like to thank our partners in this. First of all, River Strategies. Tracy and Haley at River Strategies did a great job putting this together. The Union League Club and our corporate sponsor, Wintrust, and our speaker today, Tim Crane. Wintrust, we're so happy to do this with them. They share our vision, but maybe it's time to have a good public policy discussion and talk with each other and not at each other. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to our host today, the person probably everybody knows with obviously the best Zoom backdrop in the history of Zoom backdrop.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Tim Crane, president of Wintrust. My pleasure to welcome everybody to this morning's event, the Breaking Ground, a discussion about the Obama Presidential Center. Wintrust, Chicago's hometown bank, is a proud partner with the Lincoln Forum to sponsor community conversations like this one. As many of you know, Wintrust prides itself on its involvement in the communities where we operate. It's our belief that sharing information, sharing perspective is important to finding common ground and good solutions to the issues we face, or in this case, the way forward with a unique opportunity. We're lucky this morning to have a great group of panelists to share with us their thoughts about the development of the Presidential Center. And as Chicagoans, we should all be proud to honor former President Obama for his contributions to the city, the state, and our country. The Obama Presidential Center will be a terrific addition to Chicago's South Side, a chance to foster economic development and to showcase the vibrant culture and diversity in our city. So thank you for joining us, and thank you in advance to our speakers. I hope you all enjoy today's conversations. And at this point, I want to hand off to ABC's Cheryl Burton. Cheryl?
All right, thank you so much, Tim, and thank you so much, Pat. Happy Monday, and welcome everybody to this extraordinary hour of power. Welcome to Breaking Ground, a discussion about the Obama Presidential Library. And this hour of power will no doubt be symbolic of breaking ground as well as literal. And I'm so honored and blessed and thankful to be here celebrating with everybody on this Monday, because a part of this important and impactful conversation will be so good and inspirational to everyone. And I wanted to share with you, I was born and raised on the South Side of Chicago, educated in the Chicago public school system. So for me to be here to discuss the Obama Presidential Center, it will be built in the neighborhoods that shaped my life. And I wanted to also share that my uncle, Thomas Burton, was Michelle Obama's teacher in elementary school, as well as her brother, Craig Robinson, back in the day in the South Shore neighborhood. So it's really exciting for me to be a part of this Obama Presidential Center discussion. The pride, the hope, the dreams. This will be a global destination for the greatest city, in my opinion, in the entire world. And it's a full circle moment for me because I was one of the very first reporters many, many years ago to interview then Barack Obama as he began his political career and he ran for office. So that was such an honor. And I sit before you today discussing this. So thank you for this opportunity, everybody. And so with that, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelists on this Monday. First of all, welcome everybody to Valerie Jarrod. She needs no introduction, but here we go. She is the president of the Obama Foundation, the senior distinguished fellow at the University of Chicago Law School. Ms. Jarrod also was a senior advisor to President Barack Obama from 2009 to 2017. And you probably have all read it, the author of the New York Times best-selling book, Finding My Voice, My Journey to the West Wing and the Path Forward. Welcome, Valerie Jarrod. Also joining us on this Monday is Michael Strachmonis. He is the executive vice president of civic engagement at the Obama Foundation, where he oversees community affairs and strategic partnerships. my fellow Illini, Mr. Strachmonis, also serving as the 2009 to 2013 in the White House under President Barack Obama. And my fellow Lindblom Ego, shout out to Tony Griffin joining us, the founder of Urban American City, a planning and design management practice that works with public, private, and non-profit partnerships to re-image, reshape, and rebuild just cities and communities. Ms. Griffin, also a professor at Harvard. She is here today to discuss her work with the Emerald South Project. It's a new economic development initiative on the South Side, working to bring wealth and use the Obama Presidential Center as a catalyst for growth. Please welcome my panelists today, and thank you for joining us. So I think about all of this, and I think about Tony and I went to Lindblom, and a little history, quick factoid is that Ethel Payne was the very first African-American woman to receive credentials to cover the White House back in the 50s. And she's a graduate of Lindblom High School. And then I think about the time when I interviewed Valerie Jarrod at the White House, January 2009, at the first inauguration for President Barack Obama, and all the hopes, the excitement, the pride that we felt today. And then I broke the story about the Obama Presidential Center would be coming to Chicago. It is the place where Barack Obama met Michelle Robinson on the South Side. It is also where President Obama began his career in his politics and civic engagement. So Valerie, let's talk about, it could have been in Hawaii, the state where he was born. There was talk about it going to New York, but of course we got it here in Chicago. So Valerie, you have been friends with the Obamas for decades. Take us back into those private conversations when you're talking about the Obama Presidential Center being built right here in Chicago, which has so much history for you and your family as well.
Well, good morning, Cheryl, and what a perfect introduction. Thank you for agreeing to do this, and we are all excited to be a part of this important forum. And I love the idea is let's not talk at each other, let's speak with one another, and we could certainly use more of that. So when I was speaking with the Obamas early on, obviously for me, there was no other choice but Chicago. I too grew up on the south side of Chicago, just a couple miles from Jackson Park. I spent my childhood riding my bike through the park and over to the museum. That was my babysitter when I was growing up. And then I was a docent at the museum, my first job in the summer when I started working summers, and hung out at the Point where I was not supposed to be. And so it's like coming back home. And I think they thought it was important to go through the process to make sure that there wasn't another city that would make a bid for the center, but I don't think there was ever any doubt in anyone's mind, but that they would want to come right back here for all the reasons you said. This is where Michelle Obama grew up. It's where he began his career as an organizer. It's where they met and fell in love and had their children not far, a stone's throw from where the Obama Center is going to be. And so this was the perfect location. And I think they both also were mindful that this center would be an attraction, not just for the South Side of Chicago, and put in important investment that we all believe has been neglected for too long, but a beacon of hope around the world. I mean, this is going to be a major attraction to the world. And recognizing what that could mean to the South Side of Chicago, well, there was no better place for it to be than where it's going to be.
And we are so thankful here in Chicago, hearing that news. Let's talk about the semantics, Mr. Strachmonis. People call it a museum, a library, the center. Let's go ahead and break it all down, why it was called a center and not a library, but is it a library as well?
Yeah, so Cheryl, I echo Valerie's thanks to you for doing this, and really pleased to be a part of the Lincoln Forum. So traditionally, if anybody has ever been to a quote unquote presidential library before, what you've probably gone to is the museum. It's a museum that tells the story of the presidency, and the Obama Presidential Center will have a museum. If you've seen, and I hope you go to our website at obama.org, if you've seen the rendering, what you'll see is this iconic tower that will house the museum. But, you know, President and Mrs. Obama, they chose to bring this to Chicago in part to give back to the community that gave them so much. And so it'll be much more than the museum. We're going to have what we call the Forum Building, which will include a restaurant and a recording studio and places, classrooms, and places for some of the young people who are right across the street at Hyde Park Academy. I hope to see them over there doing their homework. There'll be another building which will house a branch of the Chicago Public Library. Sort of unpacking that, playing on that word library, right? Which will also bring young and old to that space to interact with tourists from around the country, around this, and visitors from around the city and those from around the world, all surrounding a beautiful plaza, which will be a great gathering point. But that's only about 3 acres of an 18-acre space. The rest of it will be gorgeous parkland, you know, connected to the Museum of Science and Industry, in a campus on the museum campus on the south side of Chicago. We'll also have a great lawn that will offer some topography. So when it snows, as it tends to do in Chicago, you get a little sledding on the south side, a beautiful playground, and then a gym, an athletic center, which will have programs and activities as well. All of that really connotes this center, this campus. Now, the archives themselves will be housed by the National Archives Administration. It'll be in basically a vault that will be in the Chicago area. So if you want to go and see the pieces of paper, you could go there. They'll also be in the museum. But another thing, Cheryl, that I want folks to know is that, and Valerie knows this, this was a digital presidency. We were in many ways really the first digital presidency. And so what President and Mrs. Obama decided to do was, you know, we need to make this space accessible and available to the public. So rather than spend the money to create a vault on this campus on the south side of Chicago, we use that money to digitize the records so that they would be accessible and available to everyone. That was something the National Archives had wanted to do for a really long time. And so it's been a great partnership. So yes, there, if you want to see the archives, you'll be able to go and do that. And we hope everybody comes and appreciates the center that is designed to really become an asset for the city, an asset for the South Side, and an attraction, as Valerie said, for visitors from all over the world.
So, Mr. Strachmonis, we'll get to some of the archival material because we're hoping that we get some of those tweets that were private and personal between the First Lady and the President that we didn't see, that we might see. Also, we're hearing about the garden that will honor and celebrate and pay tribute to Mrs. Obama. And I'm hearing about a basketball court, but we're going to get back to that in a little bit, because I want to ask Tony about the value and the importance of designs. I read a lot of your work, Tony, and you talk about how designs can ensure and impact justice, and urban design and planning contributes to justice and urban justice. So Tony, talk a little bit about that and how this presidential center is going to make that happen.
Yeah, well, I have to take that back to Lindblom, Cheryl. And let me just say, it is so amazing and trippy to be in this kind of space with you and watching your career for the last 29, 30 years. And just thinking about us, you know, hanging out at football games at Gateway Stadium, and to be able to come back full circle and be able to have this conversation. So I'm super delighted to be in your company this morning. And, you know, my love of architecture started at Lindblom High School. And I went on to study architecture with another one of our great friends, Ramona Westbrook, who has her own practice in Chicago. And just to talk about first, we were among some of the first young African-Americans to ever be licensed as Black female architects in the state of Illinois, which in the early 90s just was really shocking to us. It was then my work at a firm, Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, where I got to meet Valerie, and we started doing this urban scale work. So I moved from doing buildings to thinking about the context of neighborhoods and asking questions around, well, why are some neighborhoods getting investments and others aren't? And so I think the decision to place the Obama Presidential Center here, as Valerie and Strachmonis said, is not only about creating this extraordinary sort of space of convening and engagement and activation in history, but the placement in a neighborhood that had been chronically disinvested for decades. And we have to remember, this is the space, most of us on this call are descendants of the Great Migration from the early part of the last century. My parents are from Mississippi and Arkansas. And they were situated in a neighborhood, a collection of neighborhoods known as the Black Belt. These are the neighborhoods we're talking about now, what we're now calling Emerald South. Those neighborhoods, because of racial segregation, fuel Black metropolis, where we had the first Black insurance company, the first Black banks, the first Black newspapers. So it has historically been a home of Black entrepreneurship and Black cultural production. It went through a history of land mutilation, urban renewal, public housing, disinvestment, only to come and realize one of Martin's, aspirations to have a first Black president who's now seated his home here. And so when we think about design, we want to think about the way in which these neighborhoods had historically been designed, but that the bones of the neighborhood are still very much intact, a fantastic housing stock, historic parks designed by Frederick Law Olmsted, the way in which we want to think about our commercial corridors, the way in which buildings are designed, streetscapes are designed, public spaces are designed, and how are we connecting to all these historic places and assets like Washington Park and the DuSable Museum, right? Like our rail subway lines. So we're interested in an Emerald South Economic Development Collaborative to making sure that we can leverage the opportunity investment of the Obama Presidential Center to make sure we're pushing ownership and growth and reinvestment and redevelopment into those neighborhoods that are surrounding the center, and that redevelopment and reinvestment be owned by people who live and work in the neighborhood, that existing businesses are uplifted, that their buildings are improved, that our streetscapes are enhanced, and again, that our parks become vibrant places for the entire community.
And that is the hope for the Obama Presidential Center, is to serve as an anchor that will drive wealth and sports and economic development and create opportunities. And I'll tell you, Tony, those 2 years we had to take drafting at Lindblom, it paid off. Those expensive supplies, those rulers and protractors and all of that.
Exactly.
We had a technical high school, and drafting was 2 years. How many buildings did we build on paper, and how many Christmas lights did we construct? Those were tests. So it all paid off for you, Tony. And this is an extraordinary experience for you to share in this part of this discussion. But of course, we know that the groundbreaking is now set for September 2021. That is only 4 months from now. But Valerie, let's go back to the debates, the delays, the lawsuits, and talk about where we are today and how that impacted how we got here, but we're moving forward. And how would you like to share with people who felt like they weren't included in the process and they want to be included now?
Well, first of all, we cast a broad net of inclusion because President and Mrs. Obama both recognize that this center, which will be multi-million-dollar investment, is a part of a community. And so they wanted to make sure that the process that they went through for the site selection, for the architect selection, for the design of the campus, all of that has to be in concert with the community. And so Michael Strachmonis led a lot of that community process. And one of the important decisions we made early on was to ensure that we had a community organization such as Emerald South that could be our partner, because we are going to design the campus, but it's not in a vacuum. It's a part of the rest of the community, and we want the community to feel a sense of ownership of this entire campus and to benefit in everything from jobs to contracting, both the construction and permanent jobs, want it to be a part of this community. And that's kind of the core value that the Obamas represent, the sense of inclusion. So if anyone has felt excluded, you are welcome into this process. We are doing a lot of outreach now to the business community. I think, Cheryl, as a result of the events of last summer, many around our country are asking themselves, some for the first time, what is our responsibility to provide opportunities in an inclusive way? And we want to be a model of that behavior in terms of how we build this project, but we also want to help others in the business community be involved and engaged as well, and not just with their philanthropy, though philanthropy is important, but also mentor young students. We're going to have a relationship with the businesses and schools and residents in our surrounding communities. And the business community writ large in Chicago could play an important role. And as Tony and Emerald South build their efforts towards wealth creation, we could use partners in that effort as well. Yes, there have been delays, there has been litigation, but the good news is 2021 looks very bright. We went through a robust and deliberative federal review process that concluded at the beginning of this year. We have a strong partnership with the city of Chicago. And in fact, their prep work is underway right now. They have responsibilities for infrastructure and for the track and field that will be finished this summer. And so that work will all precede our groundbreaking in September. So there is seamless coordination between us and the city, us and the Park District, us and the federal government to make sure the government is doing what it does best and that the foundation is a partner in that effort. So an inclusive process that has resulted in the approvals that we've received from the state and from the local and federal government and state government that will also be putting in infrastructure, roads, and other infrastructure work. We have a strong partnership with Emerald South, with the local elected officials, with the mayor of Chicago, with the governor of Illinois, and obviously we have a willing partner in Washington. So we have aligned up all of the necessary and integral players. But as I said, when you said for people who feel left out, if you want to get involved, you are welcome into the process right now.
So Valerie, one of the other things we had to do at Limblum was take Latin as an elective language, and the words e pluribus unum is on the carpet in the White House in the Oval Office. If you've ever noticed that, I did when President Obama was there. Out of many, we are one. So let's talk about that. Valerie is talking about get involved. Mr. Strachmonis, tell me about what's happening immediately. What can we do as soon as we get off this Zoom to be a part of this? The jobs, how can we sign up? How can we apply? Where do we go? Because people will be fascinated and interested after hearing this welcome news.
Well, the impact on this for the city of Chicago has started already. They weren't waiting until the presidential center has been built in order to make a positive impact on the city. So I just want to highlight 3 opportunities for people. The first is on this construction project. The jobs are starting now. And we built a plan to make sure that this center was built by people who look like those who live in and around the center itself. And we saw that there were real barriers to getting Black people, people of color, folks with who are in the justice involved, who've had a record, those who haven't worked in a long time, other barriers to employment. We built a plan in order to make sure that this could be a model for inclusion for job opportunities in the construction industry. And so people can go to obama.org right now /Chicago and look at our job portal. We have put in place a barrier fund to support people who may need support with transportation to get to one of these apprenticeships. If they need some support on education, there are pre-apprenticeship classes. If they can't afford the tools that they need, all those barriers that sometimes keep people from the job opportunities that they want to have, that they can do. We've put together a plan with local partners to be able to overcome those and create these opportunities. Why? Because we know that we're only going to, the Obama Foundation, we're only going to build one presidential center. So we have to make this a model, and the infrastructure, the ecosystem for workforce has to be strengthened because of this project. So that's one thing I wanted to highlight. You'll hear from Tony more about Emerald South. You've heard Valerie talk about economic development. That's the second opportunity. The third is we're investing in young people today. We have something called the Obama Youth Job Corps, where we're bringing in high school seniors from the neighborhood for paid internships. And they're also getting soft skills. I think about the experiences that you're talking about with Tony and high school. Valerie and we've talked about this a lot. There are just things that we learned, that we had the opportunity to learn in the workplace that made us successful once you got in there. Some people learn it around their dinner tables. Some people learn it because they have family members in these places. Others who don't have those opportunities, you need to learn those soft skills. And so the Obama Youth Job Corps is providing internships and also those soft skills to young people. Last investment in young people I want to highlight for you is the work of My Brother's Keeper. My Brother's Keeper was started after the killing of Trayvon Martin when President Obama is in the White House, and it has continued to this day. So in Chicago, we are investing resources into programs like the South Shore Drill Team that you probably know well, or BUILD on the West Side, programs that have proven themselves effective in giving young people, particularly young boys and men of color, who are often deeply challenged in our society, in our city, giving them the tools and the resources to overcome those challenges and live productive lives. And so that's the work of My Brother's Keeper. That work deepens and continues. And our hope is that people will, come and invest with us, invest in the community with us, invest in this young talent with us, and invest in those who want these jobs and opportunities with us as well.
That's a great point to move to Tony, because she's going to be working with the Emerald South Project. That includes Woodlawn, of course, Washington Park, and South Shore. And my brother is one of those young men who grew up in Chicago on the South Side, and now today he has grown to an IT owner of an IT company. And that is because of the experiences he was allowed to have in programs like this that are life-changing. And that is what Tony is hoping that her program, Emerald South, will do. So let's dig deeper and dive in more, Tony, about what specifically the Emerald South Project will do, what the hopes and aspirations are as well.
Yeah, sure. So Emerald South Economic Development Collaborative was started about 3 years ago at the hand of a couple of neighborhood leaders with the University of Chicago, the Obama Foundation, and then former Mayor Rahm Emanuel. As Valerie said, the ambition was to make sure that the center was having an impact on these communities. They hired a phenomenal president and CEO, Gan Foreman, another local neighborhood homegrown professional and longtime community advocate, to lead and shepherd, what could we do? How do we play in the space of these neighborhoods and make an impact that helps to advance all the community development work that's happening in the neighborhood? And as you say, really lift all boats and create a stronger sense of togetherness and collaboration. So what we've been doing over the last year and a half is scripting out a strategy and asking the question of how do we leverage this investment so that it yields a different outcome for businesses, residents, households, and community overall that strengthens a sense of ownership and pride in place. Longtime families and residents who live in this neighborhood, longtime businesses who have weathered the economic cycle of this community deserve to benefit from the upside of this growth and not be fearful of any potential dislocation. So wealth creation is something we really have to center and broaden the different ways that, as Mike and Valerie said, that members of our community can participate in this beyond just engagement, through ownership, through jobs, through increase in wages, through owning land, through owning homes. There's over almost nearly 6 million square feet of vacant land just in Washington Park, South Shore, and Woodlawn alone. And when you look at the larger region of Emerald South, which, by the way, has a population of about 220,000 residents. That's about the size of a college town like UVA or University of Wisconsin in Madison. It's also close to the total Black population of Atlanta or Cleveland or New Orleans. So, we're really talking about a city within a city. And so that holds a really unique and different economic promise that African Americans who've lived in this community should be able to buy into, that African Americans who've left the city and are looking for a way to come back can buy into, as well as broader interests who can locate themselves here. So we're wanting to invest in strategies right now that strengthen our commercial corridors, that enhance our civic infrastructures, like all of the Green Line stops in the neighborhood and the parks. By the time visitors come to the Obama Presidential Center in 2025, we want those visitors to be able to spend money at our local businesses. Spending money in the neighborhoods is what builds economies, it what strengthens households, it what creates jobs and wages. So we have an opportunity to work towards that and invest towards that now. We also have an opportunity to think about the future. You know, there's statistics that say that children who grow up in chronically disinvested neighborhoods make $34,000 less than a child who grows up in an invested neighborhood. So we've got time now to think really strategically about how we're creating that position. So today's 10-year-old will be 21 in 10 or 11 years, can choose to live and stay and thrive just as your brother did. So what are the diverse economies that we can create and attract around the Obama Presidential Center, around the University of Chicago, around the Health Center, and around the creative and cultural arts that the neighborhood has, so that the opportunity for business growth, job growth, wage growth is an attractive proposition for families to stay, for new families to come here, and to have a thriving and wealth creation and generational wealth creation opportunity within the neighborhoods that their grandparents and parents have loved for so long. You know, if you're from the South Side of Chicago, you are very prideful of that, no matter where you migrated to in the world.
Right.
And so we want this generation of children to also have that same immense pride of place and be able to thrive when they're old enough to make choices about where they live.
So Tony, you are getting me nostalgic right now, because I'm thinking about in grade school, you went on a field trip to the Museum of Science and Industry.
Right.
Now, you know, the CEO making history, the first woman, the first African-American to be the CEO of the Museum of Science and Industry, right there on the South Side of Chicago. That was a field trip, a very important field trip in the Chicago Public Schools. Also, life-changing for me was taking a visit to the Ebony Jet headquarters on Michigan Avenue, and John Johnson, the owner, coming out and speaking to third graders. I remember it so well. I was 8 years old, and he said, "Cheryl, always walk with a purpose."
Yeah.
He might have not said Cheryl, he just maybe said it to the group, but I thought he was speaking directly to me.
Of course.
But those visits is just what the Obama Presidential Center and what you talk about, the Emerald South Project, can do for a child, because you can be what you see. And when you walk around and say, this museum, this presidential center is for the first African-American president of the United States of America. And we were there, we saw it, our children saw it, our nieces and nephews were a part of it, our family, our parents got to witness this. And when you can see an opportunity like that, it changes your life and it changes your vision and your trajectory, because you believe anything is possible. So thank you for being a part of this panel today, because people had no idea that a Tony Griffin exists and what she does for a living and where she came from, and her love for building started right in high school.
High school.
So, yeah.
And Cheryl, let me just say, just as you refer to, you know, Ebony Jet, which is part of that sort of cultural production and entrepreneurship that started right on the South Side of Chicago. Those archives, by the way, are now a part of the Rebuild Foundation and are located in Woodlawn. So the way in which even the creative class and cultural production and the notion of Black culture situated as a part of this constellation of anchor institutions only, I think, helps to advance the opportunity that we now have to think about an investment proposition within these neighborhoods that builds on that legacy and creates a real value proposition for these neighborhoods, for the people who live there now, and for folks who want to come back to the South Side.
So Valerie, let's talk about investment, and let's talk about private investment and personal investment. Is it possible for a group of youngsters to buy 10 bricks to build one side of the wall for the Obama Presidential Center where they can say, I donated, I invested in this historical building, Valerie.
A great idea, Cheryl. I'm looking at Mike. I was like, we should sell brick by brick because, I mean, your point is such an important one, Cheryl. We want people to feel ownership here. I mean, one of the many strengths of Barack and Michelle Obama is that they never wanted to be removed. They always wanted to be proximate. I can remember all of these young girls who would come to the White House who were mentored by Michelle Obama, and she made a point of like holding them on their shoulders and looking right into their eyes and signaling that they mattered on a very individual basis. And so, yes, we want, part of why both of the Obamas wanted very much to have a public library on the site was because they wanted children to feel like they own this and that they were a part of the continuation of this effort. And, you know, many of the prior presidents have built libraries and museums. And because the Obamas are so young and they know that they have this extraordinary platform, a piece of what they wanted to do is to figure out how to use that platform to be a force for good going forward. And young people are a critical part of that. All of our programs are directed towards young leaders. And how do we help them build the kind of inclusive leadership skills that they need to go back to their communities, wherever they are, and lead well. And so, yeah, we want to get young people involved from the very beginning and recognize that our programs are going to be global. One other just important component of what we're doing, and you alluded to it, Cheryl, with the digital platform, is that we want people to be able to visit this museum wherever they are. And we know that young people are addicted to those devices. We want them to be able to go right on their device, whether they are on the south side of Chicago or whether they are living anywhere around the world, and be able to have the experience of visiting the museum, whether they're there physically or not. So it will be a virtual center in addition to being a physical space here in Chicago. I'm gonna look into selling those bricks. I think it's a great idea because it's again, whether the brick costs $10 or it costs $10 million, we want the young people to feel a part of this.
I thought about that because my siblings and I, we purchased bricks in honor of my parents at the colleges that they attended and graduated from in the South. And so when we go and look at the schools where my parents went in the South and graduated, their names are honored on the bricks that the children will walk and see their names. So we think that they are walking in the glory of my parents to a destination and to the destiny of their life. That's how we looked at it. And it was important. So I thought, well, you know, and some young people want to be a part of this. I mean, Valerie, everybody young wants to be a part of something futuristic and historic. You know, it's a movement now for young people to be a part of it. So that's why I was just throwing some ideas out there. You know,
I like that. I like that. And that's part of what we want is that in order to attract young people to want to come, we need to listen to them as we're making plans so that we plan it in a way where it's going to be fun and attractive and creative. And what we do not want is for the experience at the Obama Center to be passive. In that, we don't want people to just wander through, learn something about history, learn something about his presidency and about these two iconic figures. We want them to leave committed to action. We want them to leave where they say, okay, this is what I'm going to do tomorrow that's different as a result of this experience that I've had. And that's, again, why it's so important that it be virtual. It is about action, and it is about being a force for good and having the tools that you need to maximize the positive impact. There's so many people who want to be involved in their communities. They want to lead, and our problems seem sometimes insurmountable, but we actually know the solutions. The question is, can we find those young people who are prepared to actually push for change? Because nobody changes willingly if you're in a position of power. You have to kind of take that, and we want to arm them with the tools to push that, in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., the arc of the moral universe a little closer to justice. And all big movements have always been led by young people. And we want to equip those young people, not to tell them what to do, but to give them the tools on how to do it to make the biggest impact.
Yeah, for survival. It starts with one step, and
Yes.
taking that faith and taking the step, not knowing what's on the other side. So, Michael, I love the fact that the building has these words on the outside. My parents always said words matter. We the people, you are America. Yes, we can. Si se puede. You know that was the campaign motto during President Barack Obama's first and second campaign. We. And according to President Obama, he says that is the most powerful word. We shall overcome, and the word glorious. So Michael, talk about the inspiration as you walk up to a facade and see those words, what that will do and what the hope and inspiration, because it speaks to the priority of the president and first lady, and it embodies hope too.
It does, Cheryl. And you know, I was a kid who, we talked about this earlier. You know, my parents were school teachers. I grew up on the north side of Chicago and uptown. Literally every other member of my family was on the south side. They were, you know, there was no way they were doing anything on the north side of the city. And so I grew up kind of in between and around the city. And, you know, I'm here today because somebody before I came along invested in the museums, the libraries, the cultural institutions that were accessible and available to a young person. You know, Valerie and I joked about this earlier. Those were my babysitters. I don't know what they did with me. My mom would, you know, send me there after school into these museums. And so having that experience of being able to see something bigger than yourself is what allows a young person to create the future that we all want to live in. And look, this is already happening today. This is not, you know, pie in the sky. The design that you'll see when you look at our website, that was created through, you know, advice, engagement, the first woman architect for a presidential center in history, another architect that is a South Sider, that is a part of our team, Dina Griffin, designers, criticism and critique from the neighborhood. You know, the parking lot was in one place. The parking lot is now different because people got involved. Again, they got out of their comfort zone and they went in and they got engaged and they helped to create this thing. And so I think that the quality of the experience is important as well. You know, I came back home after living in Washington, D.C., spending a little time in Los Angeles, and I went to Woodlawn, I went to Jackson Park. I got to tell you, it didn't look the same from quality level as the parks did as Millennium Park or Lincoln Park. You know, you look at the trees that are there. Most of those trees are diseased and old, dead or dying. The biodiversity, there are invasive species, the stormwater. You know, the stormwater on that site in Jackson Park, you know where it goes? It goes right into the homes across Stony Island, right across the street. I talked to the seniors who were excited about going across the street to experience this park, this presidential center, but they pointed out how dangerous Stony Island is today to walk across it. And so what we see today, if you were to go there today, you see a brand new track and field being put up that's going to be of the highest quality of the city. You see investments in the infrastructure, long overdue investments in the roads and the park that's there. And a few years from now, you're going to have the best presidential center in the country right across the street. And that is what our city deserves. That's what the young people who live over there deserve. And I think just that will make an incredible difference in the trajectory and the arc and the pride that we have as Chicagoans in our city.
You elevate your neighborhood, and shout out to Whitney Young Library and shout out to Carter G. Woodson on 79th Street. Yes, absolutely. I feel you, Michael, because research papers were done you can do it now on the phone, but now that was you hung out at the library. It was a place to hang out. Wasn't that fun back in the
It
day to have?
was.
So, and hopefully that's going to happen for this next generation. But Tony, I'm getting some questions from people wanting to know about how they can converge on the Emerald South project, how they can get involved. When does it start? Do you need help? Do you need investors, volunteers? Valerie talked about the Obama Presidential Center, but the Emerald South project, people are also sending me questions about how they too can get involved with that.
Yes, 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 and yes. The organization was by intention designed as a collaborative, knowing that there are individual organizations from a garden club to a long-standing nonprofit in the community, whether they're working on housing or education or workforce. We want to be a bridge to all of those organizations and figure out collaborative ways of advancing different agendas. So one of the early initiatives that we've started is a commercial corridor collaborative. This includes the 14 business service organizations in South Shore, Woodlawn, and Washington Park. So that's the local Chamber of Commerce, it's the YMCA, it's these service organizations who work with local businesses and entrepreneurs on the 10 corridors within Emerald South from 47th Street all the way down to 71st, to help them think about what are the ways that we're going to strengthen these corridors, what are the resources that we can get you as a business, again, so that you're filling the gap of retail that the community has now, as well as anticipating the amount of visitors that are going to be coming into the neighborhood just in the next 5 years. So there are opportunities to be collaborative with those organizations that maybe some of our listeners are already working with, but to help us think of ways of really promoting commercial spending and business attraction all the way across. One of the recent grants that we were really happy to get at the end of last year was a grant program initiated by the state of Illinois using tax revenue from the cannabis industry to fund community development activities related to education, public safety, workforce, and community development. So this project called Terra Firma in our first year is a $2.5 million initiative to actually think about how do we take some of the vacant land, ultimately all of the vacant land in these communities, and have people think about them not as a liability. And remember, there are generations of people who have only seen their neighborhood with vacancy, and that was not the case always. But how do we turn that into an asset? And how do we build in a sense of community stewardship for that land that starts with cleaning it, greening it, beautifying it, activate it, but ultimately working on ways that we can move that to ownership and development by people who live and work in the neighborhood. So this first year, we're taking 20 acres of city-owned vacant land. We just issued on Friday a call for workforce. We will be training adults and youth on methods of cleaning, cleaning, demolition, horticulture, environmental design, and they will be working on these sites all throughout the year to beautify them. We also intend to partner with community-based organizations. There are a number of community garden clubs in these neighborhoods. There's also a fantastic sustainability organization called Blacks and Green. We'll be working with those organizations as partners to do plantings on the site, to do community workshops on the site, to think about long-term stewardship. So when Michael talked about stormwater management, having all this vacant land in the neighborhood, exacerbates the amount of puddles we're stepping over at the intersection because the water isn't properly draining. Having these vacant lands is often sites where people dump garbage and things. And when you don't have a density of people watching out for the neighborhood, it can also create a feeling of unsafetyness. And that contributes to stress, which can create all sorts of physical and mental conditions. So what seems like a simple greening project actually has a number of different impacts. So we're hoping to train upwards of 60 adults, same amount of youth. We also have a business entrepreneurship program. We already know that there are small businesses working in this space. We have a program that's going to work with those businesses to ramp them up to be the contractors for these sites. We also hope that there'll be contractors for the future Obama Presidential Center gardens that Strach talked about, can be contractors for the University of Chicago, can be contractors for the Chicago Park District to start to do some of that bioremediation within our own neighborhood parks. So we really see this as an ecosystem, like the starting point for an ecosystem. We will be doing and recruiting all sorts of partners for this. These are paid jobs, by the way. These are paid partnerships with local organizations. We want to build the capacity of people and organizations to do more of this beyond our neighborhood. We hope to have some activation events that'll coincide with the groundbreaking of the Obama Presidential Center, and also some events that will coincide with this year's Chicago Architectural Biennial, which focuses on the city's vacant land. And so we are working with local artists and cultural producers on these sites as well. So look for a lot of both job opportunities, business opportunities, and activation opportunities through that initial project.
All right, Professor Griffin. At the end, we're going to ask you all to maybe share information where people can go just to have their questions answered, to be a part of this, to start the process of interning or learning more about this. But for now, Valerie, someone named Barbara just sent an email saying that she wanted to know at the Obama Presidential Center, will there be specific organizations and programs geared toward civic duty?
Yes, thank you for asking that, Barbara. One of the founding principles of the Obama Foundation is about service. It is, as we say, we the people, and the extraordinary power that we the people have when we act both individually and collectively. And so civic responsibility and how that translates into effective leadership is one of the core principles of all of our programs, from My Brother's Keeper to our Girls Opportunity Alliance to our fellows and scholars that we have around the world. We want to teach people how to be good civic leaders. And that means understanding the power and responsibilities that go along with being a citizen of the world.
Yeah, Dr. King talks about everyone can serve, of course. Everyone can serve. Let's talk about, Michael, the archival situation. And I read that President Barack Obama is going to be sharing the flag signed by every single member of the mission and the operation against Osama bin Laden 10 years ago. Everyone involved in that mission is signing this flag or has signed this flag, and it will be part of the Obama Presidential Center. But also, I heard that the center is asking for everyone to share perhaps some archival material, at least if they think it might be. Maybe it's the first time President Obama got a haircut, something like that, or the first time Michelle Obama got her gown for the inauguration. So let's talk about the archives, Michael, as we round up. I can't believe we're almost done with this hour, you guys.
Well, it's going to be a fantastic experience to come and visit the Presidential Center. We have the team that put together the exhibits for the Smithsonian Museum for African American History and Culture, designing the exhibits here. And yes, that iconic, important flag will be at the Presidential Center, along with a replica of the Oval Office as it was when President Obama sat in it. You'll be able to come in and relive that experience of being in Grant Park on that thrilling day when President Obama found out and announced that he had won the presidency, and many more experiences. I'm not going to give it all away because I want people.
Oh, come on. I want people
to show up. But one of the things that is really important, if you think about this movement, part of what Valerie said is we want people who have this experience to understand their role in creating change. And so such an important part of that story were the things that people created on their own. So again, I encourage people to go to our website, to go to obama.org, because we are collecting archives from the things that people had, that they created, that they bought, that mean something to them. You know, I've seen a pair of Russian nesting dolls where the last nesting doll is Bo the dog that comes out. I've seen portraits and photographs that people had from campaign experiences they had. They don't all have to be about the Obamas themselves. They could really be about that movement, about people who weren't engaged in political life, or maybe had given up, or maybe didn't think that the country could actually elect an African-American as president, but chose and decided to believe. Are there letters that were written? Are there, again, photos that people have? We want that because we think that's such an important part of the story that we want to tell. We'll take good care of it. Right now, we want a picture of it. We'll get it back to you. And it's just going to be such a great and such an important part of the story.
I was trying to find the very first interview I did with President Barack Obama back in the day. I've been at ABC 7. I'm in my 29th year, but I'll share a cute, quick story. My niece, who made history at the University of Chicago last June when she graduated as the first Black in the history of the university to receive a degree in biomedical engineering. So yes, I mean, huge deal. And she's now working on some incredible futuristic medical breakthroughs that will help each and every one of us. But I'll share a story with you. She was so inspired by President Obama. My sister was cleaning out her room because she's now working. She's now left the house and working as an adult. My sister was cleaning her room and she found this button because my niece has wanted cats since she was 5 years old. My sister found this button that said "Cats for Obama," and so and my niece just rescued 2 cats where she lives, and my sister sent her the button. I think we're going to have to get it back for the archives because it has been. My niece is 22 years old, and she was 8 years old when she had that button. So, and my sister found it and saved it. So things like that, are really going to be very important, and people expressing what it was like. I think that would be very cool in the presidential center to have people express what it was like for them that moment. I know my mother was overwhelmed with joy. She had tears flowing, so powerful when she was at the inauguration. She, rest her soul, she was there in DC, and this was a woman who was educated in a little red schoolhouse, who went on to get 3 degrees, 2 master's degrees and an undergrad, to witness this in person in Washington, DC. And for her husband, my dad, to go to college with Dr. King, just the tears. So I hope that there's an opportunity for people to come to a booth and leave that moment, the night, it was 61 degrees, I think, in November when he won in 2008. We remember it so well. So much to happen here. And I know our hour is up, but I'd like to end with Tony and Michael and Valerie each sharing the importance of the Obama Presidential Center, what it can do for everyone's life, and what is the hope for this center from each one of you. And we'll start with Tony, and then go ahead, Valerie, and then Michael, you can close it out for us.
I'll just say real quick, my dad grew up in Washington Park, and I spent the first 2 years of my life there. My dad only had a high school education, but he was able to send his daughters to elite schools, and now I have the privilege of working here. And so when I think about his memory of place and neighborhood, and having this presidential center in his community, he worked in the steel mills, right? So just the arc of the history and the evolving narrative of this part of the city is just so inspiring to me. And so I want really this next generation to feel that same pride of place, but also to have much more elevated opportunities to do that in this place than they have right now. So every way in which we can leverage this moment, I think we all have to be a part of that vision, which I think is wholly attainable. So thank you, Cheryl. It's been a pleasure to be in conversation with you and my colleagues.
Thank
Cheryl,
you, Valerie.
It's a pleasure being here. I see we're almost at the top of the hour. So I'll just say this quite simply. We're only here for a brief period of time. And those of us who are here stand on the shoulders of people who served and sacrificed in order for us to have these opportunities. And what we want everyone to realize is that they have an opportunity to lead a purposeful life, a deliberate life, one where they make choices to be involved and not sit passively by, to not talk at each other randomly from afar, but to be truly proximate and engaged with each other. And there's a reason why this is nonpartisan. And we come full circle back to the opening of this Lincoln Forum to say everyone has a part in making this world a better place, everyone. And we cast a big net and an inclusive approach. And that's how we change the world.
And Michael, as you leave your comments, people want to know, they're emailing me, how many times will the President and First Lady be at the museum and at the Presidential Center and at the library and at all of what this Obama Presidential Center will bring?
Well, people can expect to see them a lot.
Okay.
They are deeply engaged in this project. As Valerie said, this isn't about looking backwards. It's about taking the past, looking into the present, and moving us forward. And I would just say that, hope is this word that, you all know I work for Obama, so you're not going to be surprised that I used a lot. But
yeah,
you look at the world today, you're beset by, and your focus can be on so many problems, so many barriers, so many obstacles. We need places like the Obama Presidential Center in order to remind us that together we can overcome these things. And this is really, in my view, a once in a lifetime opportunity to be a part of creating it. So I just ask people to get off the sidelines and get in the game with us.
Change history and be a part of it and watch it and be intentional in your efforts. It has been an extraordinary hour of power. I could keep talking with all of you for more hours because I've learned so much. I've been inspired. I think this is a great way to start our Monday, our work week, celebrating, uplifting, honoring, and throwing kindness around like it's confetti. That's what I always say. And people are going to want to reach out to each one of you. Is there something, an organization.org you'd like to share with everybody so they can reach out?
Obama.org.
EmeraldSouth.org.
All right. That sounds
Thank you,
really
Cheryl.
perfect. I want to say thank you to Pat, to Tim, to Tracy, to Professor Griffin there, to Ms. Jarrod and Mr. Strachmonis. I really appreciate your time, sharing your gifts with us, your talents, your insight. I think you've inspired so many people on this Monday. We appreciate it. And I want to thank everyone for allowing me to be a part of such a wonderful, important, and impactful event. And I'm so happy to be, having a reunion with Tony, my classmate. I haven't seen you since 1980. I want to wish you all continued blessings in all your efforts in changing the world and making history. We see you and we appreciate you. And go out and have a great rest of your week. Continue blessings to you and just be well, everybody. Stay safe and let love lead. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you, everyone.
Okay.